hello, and welcome to Alchemy with Alea, the YouTube channel. Today, I have Ashley Carey here to talk about all the things spiritual awakening. She is a wonderful shamanic energy alchemist and a dear friend, and I'm so excited that she's here today, and we're going to just dive right into all the different kinds of topics about spiritual awakening and the cycles and all the different steps. So thank you for being here, Ashley.
Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to chat with you today and see what comes up, because this is just like we're just kind of winging it, seeing what comes out of our mouths, because that is how spirit works, and we're just gonna deliver whatever comes up.
Yes. I'm really glad that you mentioned that, because that's kind of how it's going to happen today. There is no script. There is nothing that I'm following here. No questions. So tell me, I was really curious, because I don't think we've ever had this discussion before. What was the thing that led you on to this path to be a shamanic healer and an energy alchemist? What was the thing that happened?
It's really interesting, because I've talked about this a couple of times and I've thought about it a lot. And there isn't really like a specific thing that happened, but there was a feeling that happened. And there were some things that happened, I think, because of me recognizing the feeling that was happening inside of my body. So, and that's actually the first time I've ever said it like that. So that's really interesting to me, because when I'm thinking about it, there was just this restless energy inside of my body where I just honestly felt like my skin was crawling, like I wanted to come out of my body.
Yeah.
Which in those moments, I wasn't really attached to my psychicness or my gifts or my abilities or spirit in any way, shape, or form like I am now. So it's interesting for me to process this in this moment, actually right now, where I'm like, the feeling was that I didn't want to be in my body anymore. Mm-hmm. I was working a corporate 9-to-5. It was suffocating my soul so deeply. I would walk into that building and my skin would crawl. I just knew it wasn't what I was supposed to be doing. The only time I ever felt anything from that job is when I was helping someone's dream come alive, because I worked in finance, and, people would come and ask me to be able to create in their own lives. And when I was able to do that or restructure things for them, and their gratitude, when I could feel that energy, it filled my whole body with like this crazy sensation. And I'm like, why can I not do this all the time? Why can't I have this feeling all the time?
Yeah, I totally feel you there, because we share that in common, where, we worked similar, backgrounds and working in finance and banking. And it's the same thing. I had the same experience. So what happened after that? What did you keep feeling into that feeling of there's got to be more. There's got to be more to this. This is what feels like meaning.
Yeah. So I did. And I started to really, I kept hearing the word empowerment. It was coming up in corporate. They were talking about growth opportunities and all personal development and all this stuff. So I'm like, okay, this is what I'm interested in. I'm like this stuff. But I feel like a combination of things, but I feel like I was going on job interviews because I was miserable. So I was I don't know what else to do. Nothing landed, of course. And then I got pregnant. I got married and then got pregnant literally 2 weeks after. So we've been together for 13 years, but we got married later, and then we got pregnant right after, and then I got fired.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I was 6 weeks pregnant and I got terminated with no warning, no conversation, no nothing. I didn't see it coming, nothing. But the direction that they were going, I think I had voiced that I wasn't really like totally on board without really saying that. And then there were just some cattiness going on and some things that kind of were brought up against me that kind of launched this. I say it was the universe conspiring in my favor. Because it did. What happened was I had been kind of dabbling and reading and learning about the law of attraction at that point. So I was like very like new to it, like completely just started learning about it. And so I kind of used the little bits and pieces that I've learned. You know, I freaked out and hyperventilated and like thought I was going to die first. Then
definitely, because it's like, you know,
I was the breadwinner. Yeah, I was the breadwinner. I was the insurance carrier. I was everything. Like, and then it was gone, and I was pregnant, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, what am I going to do? Ended up being the best thing, obviously. Like, I know people say that, but I found the coaching world that way. I found spirituality again that way. I started remembering things from my childhood about my gifts that I had previously, if you would have asked me about, I would not know what you're talking about. Like, just things started kind of like coming back. So I was like being downloaded with all of these memories and things that just made more sense to me. And I knew I wanted to empower women. I knew I wanted to do something in that way. I took the safe route and started with like law of attraction in regards to like finances, to marry the two of them. And that, you know, gradually everything shifted, and I'm actually in the midst of another shift. So my group and things are changing again, but the awakening was a feeling. It created the events that led me to, you know, where I'm at now. And, you know, it felt like I was dying for a second, but it brought me to the shamanic apprenticeship. Like, I didn't know what any of that stuff was, but I ended up going down the road for this workshop, this free energy workshop where students were actually performing energy work on people for free to practice. And it was actually the shamanic apprentices that were doing it. And I left, and then it wasn't of interest of me at that point, but then it kept coming up for me. And then I saw on Facebook that she was opening her last class that she was going to be doing in person. And it's literally 15 minutes down the road. So I just was like, wow, everything's just kind of lining up.
All those signs, all the synchronicities, all the things. That's why it's so important to have your heart and your mind and your eyes, all three of them, open and looking for those things, you know, and just trusting that they'll appear for you.
Yeah. And, you know, that's really funny that you say that, because it's prompting me to remember, like, I remember being so heightened to signs. Like when you first have an initial spiritual awakening, you are almost like always looking for signs and like always trying to make everything a sign. And I was doing that. Like, someone came in my office and she had this like notebook full of stuff, and I'm like, oh my gosh, there's probably a sign in here. And I'm like, you know, there must be something I need to know here. Why would she be in my, like, it's so funny that but you are so much more hyper aware of everything around you, and within yourself. And it's kind of like, that's why they call it an awakening, because you are literally like waking up to everything around you, and not in that corporate 9-to-5 fog of like blinders, you know? It's so wild.
Yeah, it's like the blinders come off, or it's like, you know, like going from black and white TV to like the pixelated black and white TV to like 4K HD. Like, oh, there's actual colors here.
Yeah, exactly. That sums it up perfectly, really.
Yeah, that's kind of how my awakening was too. You know, it's so funny how many similarities, you know, we have. And it kind of, it prompts me to ask you too, do you think becoming a mother and going through your pregnancy and all that stuff, do you think that at all, you know, helped the progression or aided it, or just like gave you a different awareness of things becoming a mother?
Oh, absolutely. I will say that getting pregnant when I did, at the time that I did, slowed me down. Right? Because I was like, you know, going out with friends, and, you know, my main source of anything was going out with friends and drinking, honestly. Like, that's just what I did all the time, every weekend. Like, I would work, and then on the weekends it was like, go out, where's the party? And
so you mean like slowing down, like not like that you're getting like left behind, but like slowing down to like come inward and into the center of things.
Yeah.
Like,
slowing down. I mean, slowing, that exactly what I mean, because I didn't slow down. I was literally working a part-time job from home, which was nice because I was pregnant, but I was doing a health and life coach training at the same time. I was doing so many things, but it allowed me to do that. The pace of the change of pace and the abundance that actually started coming in once I opened up to, okay, maybe this is actually a good thing. Maybe I should look for the opportunity in this. Maybe I should find what really lights me up and like what really is important to me in these moments, because I have an opportunity to do that. And when I did, to be like super honest, like when I was working, I was making more money than my husband. He was only able to keep a certain amount that was fluctuating each month. And he actually has since then. So I haven't worked in corporate for 3.5 years. Since then, he makes 6 times the amount of money in 1 month.
that's insane.
Yes, it's insane. I mean, I'm ready for it to be me and for it to land with me and not through him, but it's allowing me to be doing what I'm doing. It's allowing me to be home with her, home with my daughter. It's allowing me to pursue my business and really set things up and do the things that I need to do in my own healing journey. You know, it's allowing me to do so many things where it would be a very different scenario if that abundance hadn't showed up in the way that it did.
Right. Exactly.
So a lot of trust. A lot of trust. Blind trust.
Well, do you think it's really blind though, if you can feel it?
No, I think it's intuitive trust.
Yeah.
I don't think trust is ever blind. I guess I see where you're going with that, because I think we do know. I think it was just really going from a place of trauma where I made a lot of poor decisions in my life prior to, you know, not really trusting myself, to really being like, okay, we're going all in with this trust now. Like we're gonna do this, and healing things along the way, and continuing to heal that even now. So yeah, it's just really embodying full trust in your path.
Completely. Yeah. It's really all about that faith and the trust in your intuition and your heart space, and allowing that to lead you to your purpose and to your unfoldment. And literally it can lead you to places you didn't even know was even there. So I think that's kind of where the blind trust comes from, because you're not exactly sure where it's gonna go. Like, you know, like, and not that, you know, it's from a place of like, oh, I'm just doing it, but like and to trust that wherever it leads you is exactly where you are meant to be, you know?
Yeah. And I think it's important too to note that I've wanted to quit a lot of times.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's not talked about a lot that on this journey there are moments where it's not just this like easy flowy thing. Like it can get really hard. But what I've realized is that during the moments where you're collecting all of these things, you're really like able to maneuver through those moments in such a different way, because you when you're able to tap into all of those things that you've collected on the way there, and it's a necessary moment in your journey to have that. It's almost like a cracking open to like understand yourself better. So you need like that moment of doubt, or I think when we think of healing, we think we're going to get rid of those things, and it's just not true. And I hate that that's a misconception in spirituality, that we can't have these moments of distrust in ourselves, or like those things are always going to be there.
Or like the healer is healed, which
right.
It's a total misconception.
You don't want a healed healer. Let me just tell you that.
Yeah.
You don't want one of those.
If they tout that, then there's definitely
Run away.
Yeah. Misalignment there. The journey is constantly unfolding, constantly unraveling, constantly continued. We were talking about this before we hit record, but this constant revolution, this inward revolution where you just keep getting deeper and deeper into your healing and understanding and to your self-actualization. And a healer is just somebody that's come before. That's who they are. Someone that came before, that holds the door open, that helps you realize your own inner alchemist, your own inner healer, and says, hey, you can do this too. Let me show you with some tools. And then you pass on the tools to the person that is ready to do their own healing.
Yeah. And those moments are just, I think when they happen, it's really important to just understand that they're meant to happen, and not, I know that I've done this on my journey where I get into those moments and I'm just like, what's wrong? And you want to fix it, and you want to know how to move on from it and to make it not happen again. Right. And once we understand that this is going to happen, and instead we allow it to coexist, we allow trust and doubt to coexist with each other. We allow all of these opposing emotions to exist together, instead of putting all of this pressure on, always being one way or the other.
Right. Or always having to know the answer, or always having to, it's definitely a good topic, to talk about and to open up, because they do coexist, and they never just go away. They just get easier to deal with as you are unfolding and on your healing journey.
You become more integrated with your power, because your power is in those moments, and when you've shifted into how you actually show up in those moments.
Yeah.
Because I'll tell a quick story. Like when I was in corporate, I've had severe anxiety, panic attacks, passing out, like my aunt needing to bring medication to me so I can get through the day, like so anxious that I just couldn't even function. Like, and if something didn't go right, or like, well, in what I created, what was supposed to be right, it would send me to a place of like it literally consumed me. It would consume me for a long time, you know. So what I realized in reconnecting to myself and my truth, and just like really coming back to this place, is that the bounce back time is like way quicker. Like I don't let things that used to consume me, that I would talk, like maybe some of you can relate to this. You are working somewhere and a coworker does something fucking stupid and you're like, can't even believe it. And you literally go home, you tell your husband or your boyfriend, you talk to your friends about it. And like a week later you're hanging out, or you tell your husband about it. And then a week later you're hanging out with friends and you're telling them about it. And then, someone, a month later talks about it and you're still talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you literally shrink yourself into the vibration of that happening, and you're literally in there. You're stuck in there.
Mm-hmm.
When we're really so much bigger than that. And so what I've been practicing, and I still get sucked in. Like I had a very dramatic childhood. I had chaos. There was a lot of chaos and things in my home. So I get really comfortable there, to be honest with you. And I sometimes get sucked into it. I'm starting to like be really hyper aware in that, because I know I'm meant to kind of shift some things there. But when that's happening, I'm really trying to like feel my aura expanding and filling a room, or like getting bigger, because we are more powerful than the vibration of those moments.
Right.
So instead of us getting consumed by them, we can make ourselves bigger. And then we can still feel the way that they make us feel.
Mm-hmm.
And we can allow that doubt to be there. We can allow that anger to be there. But we can also choose something that in that moment makes us feel better. We don't have to be feeling it. Doesn't mean you have to be sucked into it and be in it and sit there and cry for 10 days. It just means that you acknowledge it and you're not like pushing it down and avoiding it. But you can be sad and then also say, hey, I am sad. Yes, I see you. And also be like, but I really am going to do this because it makes me happy. And it can be like that quick, or it cannot. If you feel like you need more time to be with that emotion, then that's fine too. But there's a difference between feeling it to heal it and feeling it and being completely consumed by it.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. There's so much that you can talk about, especially on this topic.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it all happens really quick. It seems like a long time, but in 3.5 years, like everything's different,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, and it like I said, it's so funny how many, synchronicities and like how many, like how similar our stories are, because it's been 4 years for me. Mine started, like, I think my kid's only a year older than yours. And it all started with him. And that's what led me down my journey of shadow work and understanding that, we all have emotions. We all have them, and that's part of this 3D world. We're all going to experience a whole wide variety of emotions and feelings and everything. And instead of reacting, to respond instead. It doesn't mean that you're not still angry or that, you're frustrated. You can still have that feeling, but you don't need to project it onto somebody else, and you can choose to respond in a different way, because whatever you're feeling has already happened. Whatever trigger it was, whatever, just can't, it already happened. It's already done. Like it's the reaction, it's the response. It's that what we continue to put our focus on that keeps us in that state. Like you were saying, it keeps us there. And the more we rehash and the more we think about it and the more we talk about it and the more we do, we just keep sinking deeper and deeper and deeper in and like settling into those feelings until it becomes part of our reality. Like that's just where we live, is in this state.
Yeah.
So,
It's pretty much the hardest fucking thing there is in this journey, to be honest with you. Like
mm-hmm.
to have something like that my husband does that pisses me off, and for me to try to respond to it, I'm still.
That's where the real work is.
Yeah, seriously. I think honestly, I know that he's my mirror, and he is such a calm person. So he does, the way that it comes across to me is just so like triggering. I don't know why. It's just maybe because like that's not really how I am, or how like I'm like really big energy, I guess, or like we're very opposite, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. So but he's brought so many things out, and it's so interesting. You know, when I first had this spiritual awakening and tapped into this stuff, it, like he's not really into it, and it really, really, really bothered me. To the point where it created like me to wonder if this was what I was supposed to be doing, if I was supposed to be with him. And now when I look at it, it's like, oh wow, he is like my biggest teacher and he doesn't even know. And he throws wisdom bombs at me where I'm like, are you kidding me right now?
Who are you?
What are you saying to me? I just want to be like, I have to like force myself to think about it and be like, wow, he's like so right. And I just have to let him be right. So part of my work is letting other people be right and not making that mean that I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Or letting myself be wrong and letting that be okay.
Yes. 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 I totally feel that.
So
definitely a lot of my work too.
Yeah. No, we're like the same person, I think.
Yeah, I think so. Because yeah, you know, it's true. Because this, you know, and it's interesting too when you come down to being right and being wrong. There are so many different like variables. There are so many different like layers. Like you can both be right and wrong at the same time, you know, like it can all coexist, you know, and It doesn't like, you know what I mean? So yeah, it's definitely like I understand that journey intimately, like you know, going through that and having the space be held by your partner, even if they're not really like on the same, you know, page, you know, and or they don't believe the same thing that you do, but they're still like holding space for you. And yeah, I totally know that scenario intimately. But then something just like happened, and I was like, yeah, you know, he really is. My partner is definitely the biggest teacher, along with my children, you know, and everybody that we come into contact with anyways. But, you know, it really just, yeah, it changed everything, you know, and I was like, yeah, these are definitely the things that I myself need to work on as well, you know. So much we project onto our partners and everything because they're our safe haven, you know. And yeah, that's where the real work is too. Relationships.
Yeah, and it's funny now. I'm literally being prompted to remember things as we're talking. Oh, remember when you like? I literally went to therapy prior to even being married or having a child because I was really fearful that I was going to hand my daughter down these negative patterns that I was becoming aware of. So I actually was in therapy for like a year, cognitive therapy, prior to even this happening. Well, prior to all of that even happening, to be really conscious about like when I do have children or a child, I want to do things different. So it was already in, like, it was already in my mind where, like, I guess for me, it was like personal development, the change in myself. Like I was already seeking that. And then it just kind of like unfolded into everything else that we talked about previously. So when you're saying, did having her affect my journey? Yeah, before she was even thought of.
That's wild.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah.
And it's not to say that you have to have children in order to have, a spiritual awakening. It's just another life event that aids in that,
It's a
in that,
slingshot.
that progression, but it's you're basically like face to face with the life and death cycle, being part of that journey. But I mean, anybody, all of us on this planet, no matter, if you're a parent or not, or if you only, have a pet or anything like that, you can definitely have a spiritual awakening, or probably have, or, you're walking this path and looking for the signs and the synchronicities, and, really a spiritual awakening in my experience is like seeing things differently.
Mm-hmm.
Do you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. Everything's different. And it's funny, I was talking to a client and friend earlier today, and she just had Reiki attunements. And she mentioned that when she was done, she looked at her teacher who she had been spending, hours with prior, and she looked completely different. Like everything about her just looked different. And I remember when I did that, when I had my attunement, I went into nature afterwards, and everything looked different. Like everything was more vibrant. The trees were different. The smells were different. Everything was different. An awakening is much like an attunement. You're literally being attuned to your spirituality, your gifts, your path. You're being attuned to your path. You're ready. You're ready to go in a different direction, or to be shown in ways where you can actually recognize that that's what's happening.
Yeah, it's like
the experiences from you've gained the knowledge and the lessons from the experiences that you've had thus far that were needed in order for you to step into this, and you're being awakened to show you the path in a way that you can actually understand that that's what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
That's why everything looks different. It's like everything looks different because it is.
Mm-hmm. Yep, you're realizing it in a totally different light. It's kind of like listening to a radio station and it's the only station that you thought existed. Like, oh, this is all we get, this static, like, it goes in and out and whatever. And then you like, you know what? I bet you there's other stations out there. Like, there's got to be something else out there. Like, I am done with this. Like, I can't even hear what the host is saying, and then you turn it on and there's like hundreds of different stations to tune into. And that's kind of like the frequency and the vibration and the levels of joy and happiness and purpose and all of those things.
Yeah, it's wild. It leads into the spiritual awareness, because then that is so heightened. Like with every awakening, we were talking about this earlier before we came on here too. You don't just have one spiritual awakening. Like you have an initial awakening, but then they keep happening because you keep experiencing things on a deeper level. So it's like then comes in this heightened awareness of so many different things that you didn't see that same way before. And then you go into the spiritual healing aspect of like you begin to heal things, and then or that level of healing that you're ready for in those moments, and then you'll awaken to something again, and then there will be more awareness on a deeper level, and deeper healing. And with each of those cycles, you're unlocking so many things that you just like, for example, me stepping into my psychic gifts. I know that you've kind of experienced the cultivation of yours from a young age. And with me, it was, I had experiences and then it shut down. I was called psychic in high school jokingly. And then, but I was even joking about it because I knew things and no one could explain why. I didn't know what was happening. And then, during these cycles, I unlocked these different levels of my gifts and then stepped into them with courage. I mean, if you don't have the courage to step into things or to get outside your comfort zone or to take action, then you'll just stay in the same first plane awareness, first plane awakening. Like you'll just kind of cruise there. We are human, we have free will. So how deep you go and what you unlock is totally up to you. I mean, as far as how deep you're willing to go.
Yeah, how far open you want to open your mind or tap into your creativity or how far you really want to go.
Yep.
Or allow yourself to go, how far you're allowing yourself to explore, how far you're willing to trust. So before we finish this up, is there any final thoughts or anything that you want to share with the audience and kind of enlighten them or to share with them about spiritual awakening or like some things to keep an eye on or any other final thoughts that you want to throw out there?
I think we covered a huge chunk of things in what we've gone over. I think the biggest thing for me when I look back is to be really easy on yourself and allowing those things to coexist and to be not something I feel like a lot of times in spirituality we're like, oh, I've stalled out or I've taken a step backwards. And it's just not the truth. So I think the biggest thing that I would say is to allow yourself to experience the duality of spirituality and allowing emotions of opposition to coexist together and to really, if you can allow that to happen and still be really aware of how you're showing up in those moments, that's where a lot of, honestly, I think that's where the most connection to my own personal power has come from, is when I can look back and say, wow, I would have reacted to this in a completely different way, like 6 months ago. And now look, I've managed this in such a way where I moved completely through it in an hour.
Yeah.
Just really understanding that they get to coexist together. We're not getting rid of these things. We are learning to be with them.
Yeah. To handle them with grace and handle them with compassion and just, softening that edge and just allowing it to be what it is, accepting what it is, and being able to move from that space. Yeah, it's huge. It really is huge, being able to do that, because it can just
vibrationally, it's literally huge. It is like one of the biggest vibrations that you can be in, is besides love, is in which it is actually love, because you're loving yourself when you're not throwing yourself into this constriction of being overtaken by the vibration of a situation that really doesn't matter usually. So just really making yourself bigger because you are and you can.
Yeah, and by accepting it, releases the attachments.
Yes.
To having the need to feel this certain way or to have something happen a certain way. And you just accept it for what it is and allow yourself to respond instead of react. you let go of those attachments. And that's what keeps us stuck or keeps us at that level of awareness and allows us to expand and step into our highest version.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much, Ashley. I am so excited that we finally got to do this. Thank you so much for watching another episode on Alchemy with Alea. And thank you again so much to our beautiful guest speaker, Ashley Carey. If you want any more information about Ashley and what she does and how she provides her services and where you can find her, you can find all of that information down below in the description. I'll be attaching all of her information inside there. And I highly encourage you to go give her a like, go follow her on Facebook, and, and engage. She's an amazing human being. So again, thank you so much for joining me for another week on Alchemy with Alea. And I can't wait to give you more information next week on Monday. Bye-bye.